on iPlayer, you can, if you wish, select uninterrupted commentary-free coverage, or if you require more detail on Red Button, we have accessible commentary, also a signed version on BBC Two, and of course highlights on the full coverage on iPlayer available immediately, and highlights tonight. See that the very back of the procession, the front of it already has reached the gardens of Buckingham Palace, and the back of it now into its last section down the Mall, and colours being lowered as the
state coach goes by. Yes, the soldiers will use their rifles to salute, and then the young officers carrying the colours will lower the colours. I was talking about how tricky that becomes when they are wet. It's difficult enough normally, but when they're wet, they'll be 3 times the weight.
King Charles III is the Commander-in-Chief of the UK Armed Forces, and that will be inherited on the death of Queen Elizabeth in September last year. And he holds the highest rank in all 3 services, so Field Marshal, Admiral of the Fleet, and Marshal of the Royal Air Force.
Yes, of course, Captain General of the Royal Marines. See bottom left there is colour down, saluting as the king goes by. Talking of colours and flags, some of the horsemen have been heroic today. I'm sure the viewers have spotted a number of horses who've clearly been spooked by waving flags and cheering crowds. It obviously is a hazard of ceremonial duty, but it's amazing the way they manage to control their horses in such circumstances. Particularly musicians, as you said earlier, who don't necessarily have hands on the reins.
And talking of horsemanship, you see that Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal there, back right of the gold stagecoach, so relaxed in the saddle. And it's not easy, right? The point is, A, it's not easy riding, but B, riding in uniform, riding in boots that have no give, that are stiff, that makes it a little bit harder.
Well, they've also got spurs on as well, Claire, which are really quite sharp, and should they inadvertently allow a spur to wander into the side of a horse,
It will take off.
not ideal.
Prince and Princess of Wales have been on a trip to Wales. They very much want to reinforce that link with Wales as a country, with Welsh-produced goods. And I think form an even deeper bond.
There's the Guard of Honour again. You see the standard of the Coldstream Guards. Only ever carried the presence of them on one of 2 colours.
Yes, he's done so well.
Queen's escort now pulled off to the left. I don't think they'll be going into the gardens, Claire. I'm sure the gardeners of Buckingham Palace would be very happy if those horses appeared on their lawn.
No, they will be taken back to the mews. And as the gold stagecoach disappears, we have one last look at Prince Louis there, and Prince and Princess of Wales, and Prince George and Princess Charlotte. We will next see all of those who were involved marching on procession. We'll see them formed up in the gardens behind the palace, and their chance to personally salute King and Queen. And that was impressive in scale and execution and accuracy and uplifting.
So uplifting and so unique to get representatives from across all the armed forces on parade at the same time together to celebrate the new monarch.
Really credit to those who have planned it and to the work that's gone in rehearsing some of those rehearsals through the middle of the night.
But indeed, and you know, we expect our ceremonial troops and others to do a good job. That's what we've come to expect, but actually so many of the personnel on parade today, it's not what they do every day. They've come off their ships, they've come from their air bases and their regimental barracks all over the country and indeed the world to perform today. And we can see the colours of all those regiments represented, colours and standards there around the Queen Victoria Memorial.
A wonderful, glorious sight. Hugely enjoyed, I think, by those present here, but also by those watching. And one last duty for those military personnel to perform.
Now, Claire, thank you all to share their thoughts on this extraordinary day. Correct, I understand, to use either of both, but now seems the time when both the palace and maybe the nation feels comfortable with the words Queen Camilla.
I think that's one of the changes we will see as from today. I mean, up until now, Queen Consort was the official term everybody used for very understandable reasons, because in those early days people didn't want to confuse the Queen, Queen Camilla, with the late Queen, in the same way that in 1952 Queen Elizabeth became the Queen Mother to distinguish her from Queen Elizabeth II. So, but what we saw today, it's fascinating. You go through that order of service, you won't find the word consort in there at all. Queen Camilla from beginning to end, and I think that's probably what we're going to see from now on. Inside the palace there, they sometimes refer to TQC, the Queen Consort. They could just do TQC, the Queen Camilla. They don't need to change it, but I don't think we'll hear consort so much anymore.
Yes, the by that Camilla bit was interesting. That was the moment, really. That
yeah,
it seemed
she's in Latin.
Yes.
It's there. It's in the order of service.
David, I will show the parade itself. I mean, that contrast, as Robert Hardman was saying, you know, there was a solemnity, understandably, entirely appropriately within the Abbey, and then the drums. You know, they beat, and we suddenly all sort of raised ourselves up for that, even through the raindrops. Very, very colourful and vibrant, and it continues, this wonderful parade.
Well, if the ceremony took us back to the 11th century, Westminster Abbey becoming the site of coronations, this is the 18th, 19th century. It's very different to 1953. The scale of military power is much, much reduced, and in some ways that's a very good thing. But I think the fact that all of this colour, all of this other set of traditions can be marshalled so quickly, so effectively, I think again is fascinating.
And what about then this royal salute, Robert Hardman? We're about to see, there's something, I mean, again, that none of us have seen. It's one of those days in the back garden of Buckingham Palace. What is it about, and what should we look out for?
Well, it's in a way, it's recognising the effort that all the armed forces have put in. I mean, they've been rehearsing this sometimes through the middle of the night. They've obviously been standing in the pouring rain. They're incredibly proud to come here and salute their Commander-in-Chief. But if you're on parade, the one thing you almost never see is the Commander-in-Chief, because you have to march in front of him, except for the streetliners. Most people can't see him. So it was an idea of the Earl Marshal, the Duke of Norfolk, who put all this together, and the King, that everyone who takes part in this procession should be given the opportunity to actually salute their Commander-in-Chief at the end. So the idea is march them all through to the garden. Sorry for the garden, I have to say.
Well, you mentioned earlier, we don't think the horses will be made making their way onto the lawns, but a rare opportunity to see the gardens of Buckingham Palace. And all those who are on foot for the coronation procession have formed up. They will be shortly saluting the King. 39 acres in total, and these are the largest private gardens in London. They have over 1,000 trees, 325 wild plant species. And actually it's here that the King's renowned love of gardening began, when the Queen gave him and his sister, Princess Anne, a small vegetable plot in the gardens. And the central feature is the lake behind there, created in the 19th century, originally fed from the overflow from the Serpentine and Hyde Park, and today a self-regulating ecosystem fed from the Buckingham Palace borehole. But this, Greville, a wonderful sight.
It really is, Claire. It's really quite emotional, this, and this is the pipes and drums of all the regiments that have pipes and drums in the Royal Air Force. 18 different sets of pipes and drums all playing together.
Well, what an astonishing and special sight that is. The military on display, all of the armed forces there, putting on quite a remarkable show for the King, the Queen and the rest of us. Hopefully it's not over though.
Well, inevitably a huge honour and a privilege. There was so much innovation in that service, as well as, of course, all the historic elements. But for us, very, very special to be amongst the first three female bishops. There have only been women bishops since 2016, so it's the first time it's been possible, and obviously a real joy for us.
And what about you?
Excited, surprised, and honoured, deeply honoured.
And the moment when the screens went around the King and you were so close to it all, what was that like? It felt to me like the most intimate part of the service. It becomes very, very private between the King and between God. And then, of course, the beautiful screens and that spine-chilling moment when Zadok the priest begins, and you kind of have a sense that something is happening, even though it's the least visible part of the service. So yeah, really, really special.
Yes, I felt transported. It was amazing.
Bishop Rose, you also gave Queen Camilla, the Queen Consort's rod to touch. Describe that for you.
Well, again, it's how does one, coming from Montego Bay, Jamaica, get to be right at the heart of it? But it was just such an honour and a privilege to be part of that, and it's going to stay with me forever.
Yeah. And you were both right there, very much at the heart of it, making history yourselves, as I said. The atmosphere, though, inside the Abbey, what was it like? It was joyful, I think, really joyful, but also the profound and intimate moments, the deeply sacred moments, the giving of Holy Communion is at the heart of every Christian service. So in a sense, it's what we do all of the time, but something particularly special.
The ceremony, but it is in a religious context.
Bishop Rose, Bishop Gully, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your role today.
Thank you
very much.
And then the national anthem will be played by the massed bands of the Household Division, led by Lieutenant Colonel David Barringer.
All right! Oh! Oh!
Just saw there Lieutenant Colonel Tom Bonus at the top of the steps, Claire, who's the retiring regimental adjutant of the Welsh Guards, been in the service, continuous service for 54 years, and he's giving the signal to their Royal Highnesses that the parade are ready to receive them. It's his last act in uniform.
And we look there at the shot of those who were on parade, 4,000 of them who played a key role today, right at the back of the pipes and drums. Then the Commonwealth countries, 33, and the Royal Marines, who are easily spotted with their white pith helmets. And the 5 regiments that are the troops of the royal household in the front there. And ahead of them, that whole row, is the colours, all the colours and the standards of those on parade.
Just on the left there, at the bottom of our screen, the service chiefs, Claire. So the heads of all the services.
And right towards the back, and we might catch a sight of him later, is the mascot of the Irish Guards, who is Seamus, the Irish wolfhound. He's the one dog there on parade.
The service chiefs. James Colby waiting for their Royal Highnesses to come to the top of the steps. The Garrison Sergeant Major keeping a careful eye on him. You see he's put his pace stick down. It's the pace stick I was talking about.
Stepping out now onto the west terrace of Buckingham Palace. Queen Camilla following him. And you see Prince George there at the back of the train, still playing a role as Page of Honour.
His Majesty of Forces! Royal Salute! Return! Oh!
Garrison Sergeant Major Andrew Stokes giving the order now for them to remove headdress and call out for 3 cheers.
Headdress! Charlie! 3 cheers for His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Queen! Hep hep! Hep hep! Hep hep! The parade will replace headdress! Replace! Headdress! Charlie! Balls! Quick! Balls!
And the mass pipes and drums are now playing a tune called King Charles III. I think Andrew Stokes, known as Vern, can reflect on a job really well executed there. I've never heard 3 cheers resound so loudly in an open space.
I was the wrong person to ask the commentator on this. actually in tears. I mean, that was really amazing.
And you saw the Yeoman of the Guard saluting the King as he went back into Buckingham Palace, and we will see the King and Queen shortly alongside working members of the royal family on the balcony. We still have a tri-service military fly past with 68 aircraft filling the skies above, but as far as the ground is concerned, the job that these 4,000 have done and the role they have played is almost complete.
They've now got to pick up their weapons. There you go. And not let their bearskins fall off. They can't look down. Well done.
So Greville, overall, what would your reflections be on what you have seen of the coronation procession?
Well, we've talked about the scale of the parade, because it is big. It's the biggest thing I've seen in my time. I was serving, as you said earlier, for 34 years. But I think it's the delivery of the most extremely complex military operation, because that's what it was. It was a military operation delivered to perfection. And a wonderful, wonderful tribute to our King. And finally, Claire, it just makes you proud to be British.
Well, most of these servicemen and women have been on the go since 3:30 this morning, when they left their bases to take the train to London, and nearly 11 hours later, they will now disperse. They will head back by train to those bases, and they can be very proud of the part they have played in a procession that truly was fit for a king and a queen.
Robert and David are still with me. We could hear those 3 cheers from inside our studio, which is on the other side of the palace wall. It was quite a roar, and I noticed, Robert Hartman, that there was a sigh from the King.
And also you had all his regiments, the army were there. Every part of the armed forces was there in front of him. He probably won't see anything quite like that for many years, if indeed again. I think as a monarch, as a commander-in-chief, that's such a strong thing. And he has, as we were hearing earlier. He's
last June at the Platinum Jubilee that we saw scenes similar to this. We watched, I think it was 22,000 or so people streaming down the Mall to pay their respects, to pay their tribute to Queen Elizabeth, who had been on the throne for 70 years. And today, a different moment. They come to pay their respects to King Charles III. As you look at these scenes, both of you, let me go to you first of all, Robert Hartman. I mean, that's quite something, isn't it?
It's wonderful, as you say, Kirsty. I mean, the last time we saw this, when you and
It's Laguna Niguel, California.
What do you make of this bizarre British tradition to walk in the rain up the
I really
mountain?
am enjoying it. Charles and I were both born in the same year, 1948, and my mother and the Queen were both born in 27. So I've kind of followed him all his life, and I just didn't want to miss this. Really enjoying it.
What do you think his day's been like so far?
Very hectic, because mine has been a very hectic day. Got up at like 5 in the morning, took a cab, and still had to walk 2 or 3 miles, but it was well worth it.
What's been the highlight for you so far?
London, the fish and chips.
I hope you had mushy peas.
Yes, mushy peas are in there too.
I'm going to let you walk ahead so that you can get a good spot for the
Okay.
balcony and you can see the King and Queen.
Thank you.
Have a great day. I'm from California too! We're all American! I'm surrounded by Americans!
Yes!
The house, we live in a museum.
How do your kids feel about that?
Oh, they just think I should be locked up somewhere else.
Not normal. So tell me about some of your main pieces. What are your favourites that you've got?
Oh, there's some beautiful Queen Elizabeth pieces, things I'll treasure now that she's no longer here. Lots of music boxes from Diana, lovely pieces from her. Really old pieces, Queen Victoria, things way back to George III. So I can't pick a favourite, there's too many.
And how much shopping have you done since you got here?
Okay, I bought an empty suitcase with me.
Of course you did.
So that is full. I've sent 3 boxes home.
3 boxes?
A mixture of World War II aircraft, rotary wing helicopters, fast jets, all flying in different formations. And that's incredibly complex. So it takes an awful lot of planning. And it also means you need to make sure that you get all those aircraft together in a safe place, which is over the North Sea. And therefore, the plan had been for all the aircraft to join up into a long train of the different formations as we flowed in from over the North Sea. And to do that, you need the weather. And unfortunately today, that's what's conspired against us. So we've had to take a very difficult decision to remove some of the aircraft from the fly past. We're still pleased that we've got the helicopters and the Red Arrows, but unfortunately we haven't managed to deliver as much as we would like because of the need to stay safe.
Well, that's most important for everybody, of course, and I think everybody appreciates that. I think it is remarkable, given how unpredictable the weather is and how low the cloud is, that we are going to see a fly past at all. Is the reason we have King Charles III and Queen Camilla in the imperial state crown and Queen Mary's crown waving to the thousands of people who are thronging the Mall, who have braved the rain and are here to witness an historic moment. And we see there the pages, who I have to say did behave very well, getting a moment that will stay with them for the rest of their lives. And also Queen Camilla is joined by the 2 ladies in attendance who helped her with her train and doubtless steadied the nerves too this morning as she was getting ready. A wave to the crowd and the crowd waves back. Robert Hardman, I believe, as a very young prince, was it age just 2 that Charles made his first balcony appearance?
Yep, it was 1951. He was 2, and he came out. They normally wait to do sort of 2 or 3. The Queen came out as a babe in arms, but there we are. This is the rest of the family joining, and now the working family. It's quite interesting. We're seeing there all those who still undertake engagements, regular engagements, and their children. But I mean, this is such an important moment because this is the first time he has led the family out as king. He's been on that balcony, as you say, Kirsty, since he was tiny. He can just about remember the coronation balcony moment, and ever since then he's been seeing these scenes. But you know, he's leading them today. He's the one they're here to see.
He does look relaxed. He's taking it all in, and it must be quite a scene to be on the receiving end of. And when we say working members, I mean, obviously we've got children there, we've got the pages. Today, some of them better known faces than others. Take people through the working members of the royal family.
The working members, they're the ones who appear each day in what we call the court circular. There we see the new Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh there, Prince and Princess of Wales there. Then the pages, the King's pages, the Queen and her pages there to her left. But this is sort of, in a way, recognising those whose day-to-day job is supporting the monarchy. They are, you know, the King's eldest son, Prince and Princess of Wales, and Princess Anne, of course, the Princess Royal, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh. And also it's nice to see there the elder cousins, as the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester, Princess Alexandra, the Duke of Kent. They still play a part in this sort of broader royal frontline unit, if you like. You know, they may not make their headlines every day, but they're still there, they've got their patronages. And the King feels a great debt of gratitude to them. So on a day like today, he's saluting. What we haven't got here is all the extended cousins and cousins of cousins and that sort of thing that we used to see at perhaps a birthday parade. I think underlying the messaging here is, you know, today's a day about the monarchy rather than about me myself.
Yes, very interesting point, and I suppose such a special day when those youngsters have been involved. You want to say a sort of thank you.
Oh yeah, they've been working today.
There's a deal of pressure on those youngsters to go out there and behave well. Also very interesting to see. Well, there we are. A wave from 2 very popular people. Not in a wheelbarrow around the garden today. Something altogether different. And here we see, John, the helicopters coming in.
Yes.
Through the clouds, through the rain, they've made it.
Exactly, they've battled through. So this is the first of 5 formations of helicopters we'll have ahead of the Red Arrows. And what you're seeing is a formation, the first ones were a formation of 3 Juno helicopters, so training helicopters from #1 Flying Training School. And interestingly, on the second of those helicopters is Squad Leader Rich Alexson, who was actually one of Prince William's flying instructors when he was going through his helicopter training. So there's a nice royal connection there.
And also interesting that these the helicopters can fly lower, so that's one of the reasons it's safe for them.
They can, and they have slightly different rules when it comes to cloud base and how close to the weather they can get because of their slower speed.
Right, and even though it's very rainy then, it's not too dangerous for them today?
It's within the safety limits. It's right on the edge, which is why unfortunately we couldn't get the other aircraft, but absolutely within limits for the helicopters and for the Red Arrows.
And so they're coming right overhead, right over the palace. Everybody looks up. And
so at the top of the
sorry, go ahead.
So the top of the screen there was the army formation. So a Wildcat and 2 of the AH-64s. So they're coming over now. So we've got formations initially from the Navy, then the Army, then the Royal Marines, and then finally the Royal Air Force.
And the King and the Prince of Wales both looking up there and understanding both as helicopter pilots. That's interesting.
It is.
They know what it takes.
Well, we've got the first monarch who could fly a helicopter. He was in his naval days, and correct me if I'm wrong, but he was actually a very good Wessex helicopter pilot.
Yes.
He was top of his class, so he knows what's going through their minds. And of course, the Prince of Wales fled many helicopters, so there's a lot of expertise up there. If they're flying the wrong way, I'm sure they won't just hear about it from their immediate bosses.
Now you see, everybody else is tilting their heads up, apart from the King and Queen. But of course, they've got something to be mindful of. So it's just eyes up for them.
It's an occupational hazard of the head that wears the crown is you can't look down, as the Queen used to say. You've got to read your speech looking straight ahead.
So they're making a fair sound. We can see the windows of the palace there, even having a little shudder as those helicopters went past. And one of the things that I certainly wondered today is, how would the crowds be? Would it be a huge crowd? And we have a very definite answer, Robert Hartman, in that.
Yeah, we do. I mean, the crowds aren't as big as they possibly could be because of the new sort of the system they have for sealing off the processional area. You haven't got as many people in the immediate area, but here's the big moment.
Here's the big moment, here's the main event.
Absolutely. So the Red Arrows, because they are a professional display team, they can work to greater weather limits than the other aircraft who have unfortunately been unable to join us. So we do get a chance to see the iconic Red Arrows in their red, white and blue as they come down the mountain, which just looks fantastic.
What a scene.
Currently in their 59th season. They've got another 60 displays to do this year.
And where are those displays? Are they all over the world, or do they tend to be in the British Isles?
So the majority of the British Isles, but they do go all over the world.
And this is the moment. Well, that was a wonderful moment, an iconic moment, and it would have been a great shame if the weather had put stop to what really is a sort of seal on the day, I think, John, don't you? That sort of visual spectacle of something that we come to know and be in awe of and also be very fond of, that spectacle the weather is.
Absolutely.
The armed forces giving a round of applause. And in we go. A day that really Robert Hardman couldn't have gone more to plan, apart from the weather, but it is Britain. And it is the spring.
It is a coronation day.
It is the coronation.
And as the King said yesterday, we asked about the weather, he said it's a blessing. And look at him, he's absolutely delighted by that. That, as I said, this is his first time. It's so important. These firsts as a monarch, your first Christmas broadcast, your first cenotaph, and now this is. Yes, absolutely. I think a great moment for her. Now absolutely the Queen. I mean, that's as she's going to be known from now on. And I think at the start of the reign, there were one or two people who thought perhaps maybe it's done. I mean, things are changing inside that palace. It's very nice to see the balcony back in action, because actually that's been a building site, the other side of those windows for the last year. They've had to put floorboards down today just to get everybody out there. But things are changing. They're changing. In increments.
It must be Coronation Day. And I would say Robert Hardman, the King, looks, I suppose entirely understandably, very relaxed. That is a huge responsibility, to have a successful coronation, not only that people come out onto the streets for, but actually that just simply goes well in terms of the logistics, because the amount of input, the amount of planning, and the amount of pressure is enormous.
It is enormous. I mean, I likened it earlier to a wedding day. It's the day the monarch, if you like, is sort of married to the people. There's all that stress. Now is sort of downtime. One of the most charming scenes from the Queen's coronation were those pictures afterwards of what goes on in the palace. And now they're going to get back inside for photographs. I'd love to see those photographs. It was actually back in 1953, one of the maids of honour had to stop the King there, age 4, grabbing that crown off a table and running off with it. So I wonder if Prince Louis is going to reprise that role now.
He's got that look about him, hasn't he? Let's be honest.
He's definitely up to something. But that's nice. There's the Queen was patting him, saying they've like that.
And as you said,
watch those robes there. They were about to walk through a building site.
And that sight in those ermine robes with the crown on, we're not going to see that again.
No, that's Coronation Day. That's the only day that happens, and it's why this is so unique. I mean, as David was saying earlier, you really have to be in your 80s or 90s to have seen this sort of thing with your own eyes before.
And let's talk a little bit then about continuity, because surely that might be one of the reasons.
Now, after 70 years, a coronation, and it's been about the people down here, and, well, we could just ask the people, have you had a good time? So many Union Jacks, we've seen all the hats, we've seen all the outfits, and people have travelled from all over the world to be here. And it's not just been about the crowds down here, some of them have camped overnight, it's about all the volunteers as well, the armed forces, St John's Ambulance, the stewards that have made this whole day run like clockwork. And the biggest privilege that everyone here, including myself, have is that we can all say, we were here to witness the coronation. We will have that forever. So it's been a great day from the Mall.
Thanks very much, Anita. Well, there we see the brollies are up. We can't dampen the spirits, but it is dampening the hair. So the brollies are up, and people have had their moment, the moment of seeing the crowned King and Queen on the balcony in their ermine robes at Buckingham Palace. It's not a day we will see again, because it's unique to Coronation Day.
The deep religious history of the country, there's been echoes of the 17th century, the oaths, the echoes of the medieval age in the other sacraments of the coronation.
Today, and we knew we were going to hear it, of course, defender of the faith. There was a time, I mean, was it in the early 90s, when the then Prince Charles put forward the idea that at his coronation he would be, it was made clear, and I think, over time he maybe realised that as somebody who's head of the Church of England, that was not necessary.
When he said it was back in 1994, golly, how long ago was that? 30 how he viewed the role. And actually, the late Queen articulated that herself in 2012 at her Diamond Jubilee. She made a speech to faith leaders at Lambeth Palace, and she talked about how she felt that the monarch had a duty to protect, and the same applies now. It's I think that oath, that sort of extra pre-oath oath.
Do you think, in terms of a modern monarchy, and of course the House of Windsor has
as king, and he's quite been clear about the fact that he understands the limits of the role and that he was in a different never be comfortable with. But the majority of our fellow citizens in 2023 are comfortable with this being something that they care deeply about. The challenge, I think, is to reach out to the people who aren't just obsessed with history and tradition like myself.
Keep, not exactly reinventing.
There are certain people out now singing.
New reign. You have to keep doing what you've always done. But what most people are entirely happy with is this constant.
Your Majesty, as children of the Kingdom of God, we welcome you in the name of the King of Kings.
This is the royal law. These are the lively oracles of God. Will you, to your power, cause law and justice in mercy to be executed in all your judgment?
I will.
God save the King!
Prince of Wales, pledge my loyalty to you.
London, 6th of May 2023, Coronation Day. In an abbey at Westminster, where these things have been done for nearly 1,000 years, a congregation to represent the Britain of today had come together with honoured guests from the wider world. The flags of the realms, the 14 other nations, of which the British monarch is also head of state, were borne in procession. The weather, as predicted, left a lot to be desired. The King and the Queen Consort left Buckingham Palace in steady rain. At the Abbey, the King's family were taking their places, the Duke of Sussex making a brief visit to London without his wife, and the Duke of York making a brief appearance in public, wearing the robes of a Knight of the Garter. Dressed in his robes of state, the King entered the Abbey for his crowning. To Hubert Parry's anthem, I Was Glad. The Prince and Princess of Wales took their places with Princess Charlotte and 5-year-old Prince Louis. The King was greeted to his coronation by a chorister.
Your Majesty, as children of the Kingdom of God, we welcome you in the name of the King of Kings.
In his name and after his example, I come not to be served, but to serve.
Will you solemnly promise and swear to
The King swore the traditional coronation oath to govern the peoples of the United Kingdom and his other realms and territories according to their laws.
I solemnly promise so to do.
There was a special composition from the Ascension Choir. And then the most sacred moments of the service. The anointing of the monarch, for which the King was divested of his robe and jacket, and moved to the coronation chair, which had been screened from view, to be anointed with holy oil. The King knelt before the altar before being dressed in robes of gold to receive the coronation regalia. The orbs, sceptres and other items, some of which were presented by representatives of other faiths. And then the moment of the King's crowning.
God save the King! God save the King!
The Prince of Wales pledged his loyalty.
God save the King! God save King Charles!
The family watched. Parry in the third row from the front.
I now invite those who wish to offer their support to do so.
The congregation in the Abbey recited the homage of the people.
I swear that I will pay true allegiance to your Majesty and to your heirs and successors according to law. So help me God.
And then the Queen was crowned, the culmination of the transformation of the former Camilla Parker Bowles. The coronation was over. King Charles and Queen Camilla made their way out of Westminster Abbey. Waiting in the rain, the Gold State coach and the parade of more than 4,000 members of the armed services which stepped off for Buckingham Palace. Prince George had rejoined his brother and sister after his page boy duties, the family making their way to the palace past the waiting crowds. And onto the palace balcony for the first time as king came Charles III with Queen Camilla. They were joined by the pages and the working members of the royal family. Through the clouds came the red arrows in a curtailed coronation fly-past. Finally, on the balcony, it was just the king and queen. Charles, a crowned monarch now, committed to serve his people. Nicholas Winchell, BBC News.